Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy, Ernest Dove, the resident prospect hugger of Mets Twitter. And hey, just recently a credentialed member of the media for the New York Mets. Shout out to Mets News and Links for the hookup on that to let me be a reporter for the day through the site. I wanted to make this video because MLB Pipeline put out their Mets prospect list. And that's like Christmas Day for the prospect huggers. Have something new to stare at, debate, complain about. So, I mean, obviously, know I'm here for it. So, I guess, hey, without further ado, let me just go right ahead. Let me go down the list of the prospects that they have in the Mets organization, in their opinion. And of course, I'm going to give mine. As far as the rankings, there's been changes. Some of the top prospects from last year, they're not even on the list. So obviously, big things happening, probably, or I'm sure, because of the bad, struggling box scores from some of the top prospects last year, especially in the pitching. So let's start from the beginning. I'll just go with the top two because it makes sense. Brandon Sproat at one, Jet Williams two. As far as overall for the Mets, top pitcher, top hitter, I mean, I have to go ahead and be in agreement. We all now are seeing Brandon Sproat for who he is. Everyone's getting excited seeing him throw 98, 99 in camp. So now everyone, is really super looking forward to Brandon Sproat already breaking camp. Hey, can he even break camp? I still kind of say no, and please, Lord, don't hurt any other starting pitchers. But I've been reporting on Brandon Sproat obviously since the beginning. Last year, heard really good things about the general stuff. I heard really good things about his work ethic. So coachability, the old kind of cliche term, but when the pitching coach was telling me about that, that's some of the key stuff you want to look for anyway, especially from a top prospect when you're being also kind of talked up about good work ethic, respect. That's another thing that's going to work really well for any pro athlete. So it makes sense for Sproat number one. Jet Williams obviously had a 2024 you could basically throw away like it doesn't even count. Still have to consider him the top hitting prospect in the organization. We know about the on base percentage. I do, again, I feel he has some pop. I don't know, 15, 20 homers. Is that something he can aspire to as a potential future ceiling of a major league regular? My not concern, but my thought is where is he playing? He can technically play second base, shortstop, and center field. If it was up to me, let's go ahead and leave him in center field. I mean, there could be a need anywhere in the Mets organization, but also defensively, glove wise, instincts. I've had this debate for a while now, even since last year after the Acuna trade or acquiring Acuna. I I see Acuna being a higher grade middle infielder, glove, instincts, range than a Jet Williams. So if you're keeping them both in the organization, I would much prefer Jet Williams in center field rather than an Acuna, who hopefully maybe can be a super utility guy, but maybe spend a lot of time backing up second and short. And I know now they're giving him some tests at third base, which would be pretty interesting if he gets into a game at third base. So those are the main two. Obviously, number three, I like it. You guys know me. I would basically probably put Jesus Baez at number three because it's me, and I've been hyping him probably from the beginning when no one even was talking about him. But they have Carson Benj, the outfielder from the draft pick from last year, which I'm totally okay with him being the number three ranked guy in the Mets organization based on MLB pipeline. He's another exit velo guy. So he plays different positions than Baez. He's a little bit older than Baez. He's a lefty, not a righty like Baez. But my thought, even talking with the Mets organization, they like the exit velo guys, and Carson Benj fits the bill, which is why they drafted him. And obviously, Baez is a holdover from previous front offices, but when Stearns got involved, he's been one of the first names I've been hearing about through the Mets organization that they were excited about Baez from the jump last year. So it makes sense, though, to have Carson Benj. He could be a high riser. I would think of Carson Benj. Where does he start 2025? Do they leave him all the way down in Brooklyn? I would say probably. maybe it would make sense. I mean, he's a college bat, but do you always want to push those guys? Stearns pushes everyone, but maybe they at least break camp in A ball, and then Stearns will push them quick to double A, depending on some room elsewhere. A lot of decisions still to be made, even with a guy like Ryan Clifford later in the list. Are they finally going to just supplant him at first base, or do they put him in a corner outfield spot? Even for Carson Bench, can he stick in center field? Do they want to leave him in center field, or do they have him play a corner outfield? Either way, I could expect a really good season from Carson Bench in 2025. Just the tools are going to be there. So he could be one of the big names you hear about all year on my site, among other things, among the Mets prospect gurus out there. Number four, it's interesting to keep Ryan Clifford so high. And I know everyone's kind of freaking out. Like, what is he, Joey Gallo? He's that three result guy with the strikeout, walk, or homer. But the numbers were low. But it was even explained in recent Mets broadcasts that, which is what I also heard from the Mets organization. They basically said, we got to get him out of Brooklyn. So they weren't ignoring his stats, but I've said this before. They weren't ignoring them, but they also weren't seeing them as who he is. So they wanted him to get to Brooklyn. The numbers started to shoot up. I believe his OPS immediately went over 800 in Double A. So, which I would think in 2025, breaking camp, I would definitely break camp with Ryan Clifford back in Double A. There's no reason to push him. He's still one of the younger guys in the organization. He's still 21 years old. You could leave him in Binghamton again. Let him see what he does. Put him in the middle of the order. Again, position-wise, if it was up to Dove, I would just go ahead and leave him at first base going forward every day. But a lot of organizations anyway like versatility, so maybe they continue to do like a mix and match of maybe right field and first base. Whatever the case, this is a guy that you really want to see a big year from. I want to see the home runs this year from Ryan Clifford. I want to see like 25 plus, to be honest. I want to see the bombs regardless what level he's at, even if he gets pushed AAA by the end of the year, which I could see happening if he does blossom the way a lot of people think he's going to. Even behind the scenes, when I was in camp, Ryan Clifford, when he hits the ball, it's extremely loud. So can he cut down on the K rate? Can the K rate basically dip under 30%? That would be pretty huge, in my opinion. Keep it under 30, and we probably have a guy who's going to soar. The next guy was actually surprising to me. Nolan McLean, they have ranked as the number 5 prospect in the Mets organization. Now, when I was talking to one of the minor league pitching coaches last year, I was saying it online. He told me straight up, buy stock in Nolan McLean, which maybe makes sense now with the crypto and the stocks going crazy up and down. He told me to buy stock in Nolan McLean. He said everything about this young man is the real deal. So it looks like even the prospect gurus of these websites agree. But for making him this high, even with some of the other pitchers in the organization, it's fascinating to see. Maybe they're also trying to predict that he will stay as a starter. Because I swear to you, I'm still not convinced that he'll be a full-time starter. I guess it's going to be a wait and see. In that way, I'm very anxious to see how many innings Nolan McLean eats in 2025. Is he going to be a 5 to 6 plus inning guy in the minor leagues this year? And is he going to sustain everything he needs to with his stuff? If he does, I'll obviously leave him as a starter. Number 6 is one of my favorites in the whole organization, Jonah Tong. I was probably driving people crazy last year. I was putting Jonah Tong as a 1A to Brandon Sproat's 1 in the pitching prospects in the organization. I think some people were flipping out because of how young he is and how hard Sproat throws. But Jonah Tong, when he's completely healthy, he's a 96, 97 mile per hour guy too. And obviously, I love the breaking ball on Jonah Tong. He's another guy where the pitching coach told me his work ethic is absolutely insane. So that's like another coachability, guys, but he works as hard as anyone in the organization. So that's also something I was excited to hear about. He's going to do whatever it takes. I think Jonah Tong is going to be a guy. I know they talk about his certain delivery as one of those similar to a certain guy who was a star, I believe, with the A's. And it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do. But he had to eat a lot of innings last year because he was starting slow. His whole career started slow. It was kind of delayed. So now Jonah Tong in 2025 might end up being one of the most exciting people you see in the box scores for all year, dominating levels. Uh, the next guy they have at number 7 is Luian Acuna. I know he was dropping on other people's boards. I'll treat it like an NFL draft. But Pipeline has him back up at number 7. He's still someone you have to be excited about. Again, I'm talking about his defense, the glove, the range. I love what he does. I love his leadership in the infield. I was like noticing certain things like that. He kind of commands the infield when he's in the middle in minor league ball last year. So I think the pop is there. It was crazy seeing him hit 300 for like a hot second with the New York Mets in September. Can he sustain something like that? Can he hit enough like that to go with his speed and ability to play multiple positions? If they even give him a shot at third, it's going to be between him and Beatty one way or another all year to get time in the field, unless he wants to start playing a lot in center field, and maybe he can get up to the Mets that way and stay on the active roster, having to play center field. It's going to be interesting to see, but I know everyone was freaking out about the OPS and the slugging and everything was down. But one of the hitting coaches last year, they told me Acuna was getting better by the week, by the month. And he was predicting last year that he would get hot in the second half of the minor league season, which obviously turned into the major league season. So that's a minor league pitching coach, respected and saying those things about Acuna before it happened. He told me it was going to happen, and it happened. Number 8 is my guy, Jesus Baez. I'm not going to say he's too low. He should be ranked 3rd. That's kind of the dove list. I want to go by Pipeline. They know a lot more than me, maybe. But Jesus Baez, I can only say but so much about him. I can't give a lot of updates, to be honest. A lot of people are asking me, is he 100% healthy? I can't really say 100% medically cleared. He's able to do everything. I do know that he's been in St. Lucie for a while now. There's been videos. I mean, I know he's back there. So he is practicing. He's doing forms of live BP. So he is there. The concern, will he break camp on a minor league team? I honestly cannot say yes or no. So I have to do the weird political answer game. But obviously I'm praying, hoping upon hope that Jesus Baez, one way or another, in April is going to be on a team, which I would assume he's definitely going to repeat A-ball. He's super young. Leave him in Brooklyn, which is not always great with the wins, but he's a right-handed bat. His exit velo is so hard anyway. It may not matter whether it's Brooklyn or anywhere. I think he's going to succeed. Number 9, Elian Pena. He's been with the Mets organization for about 15 minutes, and he's already in their top 10, which honestly makes sense to me. He shattered the record of last year's IFA player, Giovanni Rodriguez. They gave him $5 million, and it's for a reason. They have him touted for literally everything at this point. Even some of the defensive metrics and discussions have gone up on him. Maybe they were not worried, but thinking, oh, he's one of those shortstops who has to move. He may not even technically have to move from shortstop, although obviously he will if he's in the Mets organization in about 4 more years. But he's the guy. Elian Pena is the guy. Is he going to be an absolute star? Is he going to be Ronald Acuna? Is he going to be Juan Soto? I have no idea. We're going to have to wait it out. But the early indications are super high on him. And with him presumably going to start the season in the Dominican Summer League, I would like to see crazy stats. Like, I want to see Ahmed Rosario stats. If you want to Google it, go on the MILB page and look up Andres Jimenez and what he did in his first pro season. And that's probably what I'm trying to hope that Elian Pena does day one. Let's see what we got. Number 10, Ronnie Mauricio. Probably tough to keep ranking him. I mean, it's like he's been around forever. 10 seems okay to me. Can he be higher? Yes. Can he maybe be lower because of things like not elite defense and not great OBP? Maybe you want to make him lower, but either way, he's probably in the majors already if he wasn't injured. So being in the top 10 still makes sense for Ronnie Mauricio, another exit velo darling. I just want to see what the Mets organization is going to do with him when he's 100% healthy. What position do they want him to play? I mean, he can technically, like a Jet Williams, he could on paper and technically, he can play short, he can play second. Mauricio can play third, but long term, what do you want to do? Do you want to try the experiment in the corner outfield again? As far as Mets organization projections, that might be an interesting thing to do for him. Next up would be Drew Gilbert. I know a lot of people were telling me, like, whoa, Drew Gilbert dropping all the way to 11. It's probably because of maybe the stats. Sometimes you go a little bit too off of stats. But again, they left Jet Williams number 2. They dropped Drew Gilbert all the way to 11, even though he was injured just as much as Jet Williams last year. I got to see a tiny bit of Drew Gilbert in camp this spring. He does have some pop in his bat. Didn't realize he was a little bit on the shorter side. I didn't know how tall I think he would be, but he does have the power. It sounds like the defense is really good on the corners. He could possibly stick in center field, which could be very beneficial right now for the Mets organization if he can stick in center, even for 2025. If he gets off to a hot start, does he have enough of a hit tool? Does he hit 250 plus? Is probably going to be the thing to throw out a random number. If he hits over 250, shows the power, like 20 plus home run power, he could be an interesting guy with solid to above average defense, depending on corner versus center. Number 12 is the all-encompassing Jeremy Rodriguez, the guy, the man, the myth, the legend from the Tommy Pham trade, who hit like $1 billion. He was basically Barry Bonds in the DSL after he got traded with the Mets organization. He followed that up last year with some good overall numbers in the very low minors. Where's he going to break camp? I mean, as an 18-year-old, he could possibly even have to start over again in the complex league. A guy like Stearns may want to push him and have him in St. Lucie and leave him there and see what happens. But Jeremy Rodriguez is going to be fun to watch. He's kind of a good, solid bat. I know there's been talk maybe of the defense. So again, position-wise, where is he going to play? Somewhere around the infield, maybe like a second base or a third base might make more sense than a shortstop for Rodriguez. So we'll see if he eventually moves more to like a second. We'll know what the Mets organization thinks of him at that point. Number 13, we have Jonathan Santucci. I recently mentioned him on some posts, I believe in a video. I heard amazing things about Santucci in camp, mostly about his fastball. I heard he has an electric fastball. I believe an electric fastball, above average slider. I believe he's still working on his changeup, and then command, even from college into now pro ball. The organization and coaches, they want to know about the command. The only way you're going to find out is when he starts pitching in live games during the season. He could probably start anywhere, to be honest, as a college guy. Maybe start him in Brooklyn, see how things go. Again, with all that wind, maybe it's good for a pitcher like him to start in Brooklyn, get some sexy stats going, hopefully. But one way or another, with wind-aided anything, he's going to have to throw strikes. Number 14, we have Boston Jeff McNeil Barrow. Obviously, you know I love Boston Barrow. I've interviewed Boston Barrow, so shout out to him and his representatives. He's another young bat. He's still 20 years old at this point. Really beautiful swing. Really good swing from the left side. I like his plate discipline overall. So again, he's got a good hit tool, good plate discipline. Defensively, I think you could also move him all around. Again, no one of those guys, like everyone on this list, can play multiple infield positions. I don't know if they want to try Boston Barrow in the outfield. I know he's been gaining more strength. The reason why I call him Jeff McNeil is because he's the Jeff McNeil, but before Jeff McNeil. At a high school, I believe, he's already put on 25 to 30 pounds at this point. So, and he still looks thin because he's like over 6 feet tall. So I'm curious to see what he looks like again physically now in the season, how much more weight he put on to see if it adds to some more power. Because Boston Barrow, I believe Keith Law has Boston Barrow in his top 10. And here we are having him at 14 on Pipeline. So we have a top 10, capable guy right here who could probably be in the top 10 by the end of the year if he puts up the stats that he's capable of and maybe has shown a little bit more power with the more strength. Number 15 is Marco Vargas from that Marlins trade. He's an OBP guy. He was also injured. I mean, half the top 30 last year were injured. So it's probably hard to rank these guys. He's still only 19 years old. You could leave him back in A ball. See if he could stay healthy, number one. And what else can he do besides get on base? Because he can get on base. He could walk like the best of them. I want to see his hit tool this year. It's going to be important. He could be a top 10 guy if he has a hit tool to go with the walks. Defensively, let's see where he sticks in the infield for the Mets organization. Because, again, there's so many guys now. They're all going to be wherever. I think in St. Lucie, there's been years now that you got to have your shortstop playing first base because there's just too many middle infielders to go around. So, but I'm still excited about Marco Vargas. Number 16 is Blade Tidwell, who, if you've seen him in camp right now and in a spring game, you'd think he's ranked in the top 5, but his stats are what they were last year in 2024. Probably the reason why he got dinged and all the way down to 16 at this point. But you can see how he throws 98, 99. The fastball's incredible, immaculate, some might say, in his spring game. The command is going to also determine where he goes. So between Santucci and Tidwell, for different reasons, righty versus lefty, how much command and consistency can they have? Do they even have to move Tidwell to the bullpen unless the command is there for 5-6 innings? It's going to be interesting to see, but as you see in spring, Blade Tidwell, when he puts it all together, he's probably easily a top 5 prospect, and he's likely in the Mets rotation by the end of the year, depending on that consistency now in AAA. Now we go right from older college-ish guy to the younger guy, Trey Snyder from last year's draft. He only got a cup of coffee last year. I'm interested to see, how he does now with a full season in pro ball. So it's going to be cool. I think a guy like Trey Snyder, again, they have new analytics even from last year in the amateur draft. They have more stuff going for them, so they know what they're doing even more than ever now in the Mets organization. So they definitely saw something in him. I want to see how he kind of grows now in 2025. Number 18 is an interesting guy. Even Gary Cohen was talking about be on the lookout for Nick Morabito. Nick the Flash Morabito. He's just one of those guys. If he gets on first, he's going to second as soon as he gets there because he's going to steal every base imaginable. He can play center field. I think he could do it pretty well. What's the hit tool going to be like? The knock against Morabito is the lack of power. So it's like, well, what do we have here? Do we have like a Luis Guillorme with speed? Maybe that's, what everyone's worried about of sorts. If you don't have the slugging and the OPS, you almost don't make it in today's baseball in a lot of fans' minds. But Nick Morabito is, when you hit in 290, 300 in pro ball, in A ball or whatever, and then you steal like 50 bases, like you're getting on no matter what happens. It's going to be fun to see what kind of jump he can take. How many doubles will he hit? How many home runs will he hit this year? It's going to determine his future and projections because if the power shows more, he's a top 5 guy as well, even with that speed. Let's see. Number 19 is Nate Dome. He's a guy that was kind of like you only got to see him in spurts. I believe he was injured last year. Was even in college. Like we were worried about him from day one in pro ball. So it's been a slow start to his development. But the pitching coach loves Nate Dome. They're excited. They're cautiously excited about seeing what they can have in him in 2025. So having him in the top 20 definitely makes sense based on pure stuff. Now it's just a matter of can you stay healthy and show it. Speaking of number 20, Daverson Gutierrez, which if you ask me, I would actually put Giovanni Rodriguez at 20. They don't even have him ranked. I guess I'll get to that. They have Daverson Gutierrez, who was the top international free agent guy before Rodriguez and before Pena. So when they went the back-to-back high-price catchers, Daverson Gutierrez is a guy after the signing and during the year, I was thinking maybe he's like a future Ali Sanchez, if you remember that name in the Mets organization. Maybe he would be an Ali Sanchez guy. He has a lot of contact, not a lot of walks, not a lot of Ks. He's going to make enough contact and not a lot of power, but maybe just enough. That's why I was kind of pigeonholing him into a backup position. And then he went ahead and went crazy and had a great offensive season last year. And now you see him ranked in the top 20 because of that type of offensive season, because of how good he is defensively behind the plate. If he keeps this up with the bat, you're going to have to figure out something to do with him in the organization. Number 21, Well, look at that. Another guy who was injured. Young Jacob Reimer, who's still only 21. He's a guy that I've really liked. I like his plate discipline. I do like the hit tool. I am cautiously worried about the defense. Can he stick at third base? They've tried him in the past at first base. He was kind of learning the position. So I don't know if it seemed awkward for him in St. Lucie, but can he stick at third base? Can he just be healthy, show off the hit tool, show off the on base percentage? And how much power can he have as a corner infield guy, one way or another? Can he hit enough home runs to satisfy everybody to play one of those positions? Number 22 is one of my favorites in the organization, Chris Suero. You know, I started talking about him last year. I spoke to two different people about him last year. I talked to a hitting coach and a pitching coach. The pitching coach is the one who told me, I love what he's doing week to week, getting better and better defensively behind the plate for my pitchers. So that was really good to hear for Suero, who's technically a catcher, but he can also play corner outfield. So it's interesting to see, which is where the hitting coach came in. Hitting coach told me he could play anywhere. He told me Chris Suero is a super athlete. I'm like, can he handle left field? He goes, duh. Yes, sir. It's basically what he almost mocked me. He's like, dude, he could play anywhere. He's a super athlete. Who cares? Get him out there because he can hit and he's young. But again, if he sticks at catcher, it's going to be interesting. If he has to move full time to outfield, I'm not sure what that would do to his future projections, how much hitting he would have to do at that point. But again, they're still excited about him behind the plate. He could just has enough athleticism to play in the outfield. Number 23 was kind of interesting. Eli Serrano. He's that name that I've heard about. It looks like they just really like his swing. You just don't hear a lot about him like in the public eye. So I'm curious to see a guy like this. I want to see him basically already in Double A. I want to see what he's got right away. He's got the feel of it. I want to see if him and Benj can kind of do some things together in the upper minors, and I want to see what happens to both. But shout out for Serrano to even be ranked, as high as he is. I didn't know. It sounded like they like him in the top 30 either way, but 23 is pretty high. Same for number 24, the pitcher, Jonathan Pintero. All of a sudden, he came out of absolute nowhere, and he's ranked in the top 30. He's a guy where he's ranked because he earned it with his stats. I also think he could probably be in the major leagues in 2025, one way or another. Could it be a long man type thing? Could it be a Lugo thing? God, don't say I'm comparing him to Lugo, but can he be one of those guys to come in and eat 2 innings whenever you need it, 2 or 3? Pintaro is going to be an interesting name to follow in 2025 because he could be one of those guys. Again, I'm not comparing him, but like a Reed or a Nunez, he could be one of those arms that's just called up, and you're like, who is that? Pintaro could be that guy in 2025. Number 25 is on the younger side, Edward Lantigua, who's still a teenager. He's only 18. Not much to his career at this point. So he's one of those guys where does he finally blossom in 2025 one way or another to put his name on the map? Obviously, by still ranking him in the top 30, they believe in the pedigree of sorts of his IFA signing and some of the potential there. 26, Dom Hamill. Obviously, you see him dropping all the way to 26, like a Tidwell dropping. Hamill dropped even more based on the stats. I've been worried about him since last year because of overall consistency. I was saying it last year. Hamill can go 6 innings, 1 run, 11 Ks, and then it's 3 1/3, 4 walks, 4 runs, 6. It was all over the place. So what kind of consistency can he have in 2025? Number one, which he looked great in a spring game. So that's the potential. He's got that elite stuff when he throws it. Or should he do what he did in spring and just pitch for 1 inning? Because if he's a reliever, can he be a back-end high-leverage reliever as a future? That's going to be an interesting thing. What they want to do with his elite stuff without the consistency so far to this point in a rotation. Number 27 is Ronald Hernandez. Like Marco Vargas, Ronald Hernandez is from the trade with the Marlins for David Robertson. Another guy who walks. So we have Vargas and Hernandez. Ronald, walk him if you got him. Hernandez. It seemed like he was on base all the time, more on a walk than anything else. He's a catcher / first baseman. So that's going to be interesting. I don't have anything negative to say of him behind the plate, which, as you know me, I don't talk negative anyway, but I don't have glaring, glowing things about him behind the plate. So it's going to be interesting to see what they want to do with a guy like this. Is he considered a bat first guy? Does he have the versatility ish? If you want to put him more at first base than catcher, maybe have him do both as a version of versatility between those two and DH to even get him at bats, depending on what level he's at. But he's a guy that gets on. So, with a high enough OBP, with the right hit tool, he's going to move up the levels. He's going to have to go somewhere. Number 28 is AJ Ewing, who's now 20 years old. AJ Ewing is my power bat guy. We don't have a lot of power bats in the system. I think AJ Ewing is a potential power bat who still has a long way to go, aka the K rate. My God, we got to worry about the K rate. So, what's going to happen with AJ Ewing's K rate and the power? I want to see the power continue. I want to see a guy like this all the way in Double A in the next year or so. I don't know what's going to happen in Brooklyn anyway, power wise, even for a guy with this. But I got to see power. We got to see more of a hit tool. The K rate's got to drop a little bit, and then I'll be a lot more excited about him in the near future, hopefully. Number 29, I also think he's way too low on this. Jack Wenninger, the pitcher. This guy, because he doesn't throw 97 plus, doesn't seem like he gets a lot of credit. He's one of those guys who's a pitcher, like a pitcher. I think even Ron Darling mentioned something about, well, we'll call him more of a pitcher, pitchability rather than stuff when you don't throw as hard. But Wenninger, what he throws is pretty filthy. Talking to one of the minor league pitching coaches, even in spring, he said Wenninger hasn't even done his best yet. His best is yet to come. Is he the kind of guy who's going to quietly show up in the Mets rotation? Could be. I think Jack Wenninger could be like the SP5, and we just don't know it yet. As far as somewhere 2025, 2026, you might see him as a stalwart in the rotation of shorts on the back end. Like not maybe the righty version of Peterson, who just blossomed the last year, so maybe not go that high. But he could be that guy that sneaks into the rotation real quick. Number 30 is Colin Houck. They dropped him all the way down to 30. I guess respect the pipeline for even having him still listed. The stats were pretty brutal. I don't know if it's the Serrano from the movie Major League. Does he have to do something with Joe Boo and do something to hit a curveball? We got to figure out the development of this young player because he still has a long way to go. So it's interesting to even keep him ranked. Now, again, there's the top 30. Guys that I don't see on the top 30 that I like. Giovanni Rodriguez should probably be in the top 20, in my opinion. I guess it's just Dove being Dove because of what I heard from one of the hitting coaches last year. Oh, no, it's from the IFA department. So I heard from one of the top scouts last year, loves Giovanni Rodriguez. They felt he was the number one prospect in that IFA class that year, hands down. So they absolutely love the overall talent as a balanced player, both defense and the hit tool. I don't know about a lot of power. I don't know if he's going to have Alvarez power, but the hit tool is said to be there. And also the defense is said to be definitely good enough to stick, like the Alonso thing Alvarez thing from a few years ago. We think he's going to stick, and it worked out well. I think Giovanni Rodriguez is definitely going to do that as well. Some guys I want to throw out there that aren't in the top 30 to keep an eye on. Some of the draft pick arms from last season, Frank Elisalt and Ethan Lanthier, and also Will Watson. Sounds like Will Watson is the complete wild card of the three, but I want to mention all three of those arms because I think you could basically rank any three of those in that number 30 spot, if anything, as well. Could have inserted them in there as well. I think all three could be extremely interesting to watch, at the very least in A-ball, and hopefully maybe one or two could even end the season in Double-A as college arms. I think they have the talent for it. One name I want to throw out there is Tanner Witt, who we just haven't seen. Even one of the pitching coaches super excited to get a longer look at Tanner Witt in camp. Obviously, there's Matt Allen. I don't have any new updates for Matt Allen. Even for a Calvin Ziegler, Joel Diaz, like all the guys who've been injured, it seems like forever. I don't have any new information, so we just have to wait things out, guys. But that's my video. I wanted to give small thoughts on every single player in the top 30. I mentioned a few outside the top 30, even like a young Franklin Gomez, the lefty pitcher. Keep an eye on him. He's not ranked. I think hopefully he will be soon because he's still super young. Maybe he can earn it and work his way into it. If you guys, hopefully you like the video. I'll continue to try to make more as the season goes on. I want to come up with all the information I can now that minor league camp is like fully ramping up. I'll try to sneak in there, snoop around, try to provide more info. But hey, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Click, 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 please. I could really use it. Tell your friends. Thank you for your support. And I guess till next time.